welcome everybody. We're going to talk about a buttonhole maker. Yeah, because people are afraid of making buttonholes, and today, you know, it depends what models you have. But we're going to talk about the Janome buttonhole maker, which is very simple to use. And for a newbie, it can be a little bit intimidating in the beginning. I'm going to tell you something. When I first learned how to sew, my very first computerized sewing machine was a Kenmore 161 something, I can't remember, 53 or 50 something. It was made by Janome, and the person at the Vacuum and Sewing Center at Sears demonstrated how to make a button hole using the automatic button maker. I thought that was the coolest thing. That alone was worth the price of the $600 for that computer sewing machine. Anyway, someone on the Janome group was making trying to make a buttonhole, and they had issues and they were having problems. So I posted a little video there for them to show them. But I wanted to share this with the rest of the world because there's a lot of you out there that are afraid of making buttonholes, that is. All right, so this is the buttonhole maker for the Janome machines, and in the instruction manual it says to pull this part out in the back like this to drop your button in. Well, I have an easier way of doing that. I just take my thumb right here and I push it out like that. You see that? Then I take my button and I drop my button in there, and then I squeeze it from the back towards me. And now I have the button is perfectly in there. Let me show you that again. So I'm going to take my thumb, I'm going to push that. I'm going to drop the button in there, and then I'm going to squeeze. Now you're going to ask, what is this? This is where you can tweak it. So you want to do you want to do a test, and when you do a test, you can see if the button fits perfect, if it fits too tight, if it's too loose, and this is where you tweak it with this dial here for the size button hole that you're making. You can read about that in your instruction manual and just tweak that. Now, when we make buttons, when we make a buttonhole, you have to have support to that fabric. Like if you got a knit, you're trying to put a hole in a knit, it's going to scrunch up on you. There's no support. Now, if you're an embroiderer, you have all kinds of leftover tearaway stabilizer. Don't throw it out. It might be too small to use for another hooping, but it's perfect to use for your buttonholes. For example, I'm going to cut this in half here. It don't have to be perfect. There's another one here. It was folded. I'll do that. So when you make your button, you're going to put this behind your fabric, and this goes on there. That's going to stabilize that buttonhole. So when you go to make that buttonhole, your fabric's not going to all squish up on you, and it's going to feed perfectly. Why don't I go to the sewing machine and demonstrate how to do this? You want me to do that for you? I think you might benefit from it for you that never used this. Okay, let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, to do this demonstration today, I am on my Janome S5, Skyline S5. And I'm going to select the standard buttonhole stitch because I'm just going to be sewing on a basic poly cotton fabric. Okay, so now I'm going to take the buttonhole maker, put it on like you would any other foot, okay? Then there's a lever in the back, and you have to pull that lever all the way down. If you fail to pull the lever all the way down, your machine will notify you to let you know that the lever is not pulled down all the way. Now, the only thing this machine does not have is a bobbin sensor to let you know you're almost out of bobbin. It's the only thing it doesn't. Okay, so now I've got a piece of poly cotton fabric, and I've got 2 layers. Okay, I'm going to back the camera up for you guys. All right, there we go. All right, so now you're going to put what you'll do is if you're making a real garment, you would want to take a mark. Let's just say this is the placket, and you want to mark a line down the placket. Let me show you that. I'll use a regular ink pen here. Let's just say this was your placket, and you draw a line. Okay, and then you're going to have your spacing of your buttonholes. Now, do you want your buttonholes to run vertical, or do you want them to run up and down or across? Okay, that's another choice. Look at your garment, see what it's doing. For me, I'm going to do one that's running up and down. So to do that, you want to space your buttonholes apart. And the way you space them apart is there's a gauge you can buy that will space your buttonholes apart evenly. So you can do it vertically. By doing it vertically, you would put it in like this, and there's a line you would follow right there. I'll show you. I'll get on top here and show you. So you got red lines. Okay? Let me see if I can zoom that in for you. There we go. You have red lines. Here, where these horizontal red lines are, is where it's actually going to start stitching, and then it's going to go backwards. So you need to make sure you have enough space as you're doing this. Okay? One thing you can do is you can start at the top and then work your way down rather than start at the bottom and work your way up. You follow what I'm saying? So let's just do that for this one. Alright, so I'm going to put my stabilizer under my fabric. Okay? Now we drew that line. Now I drew it with a pen so you can see. You could do it with air erasable, or you could do chalk that will brush away. So I'm following that line. I've also engaged the icon on my sewing machine to automatically cut the thread when it's done making a stitch, done making the buttonhole. Okay, so here I go. I press on the gas. Just get that little piece of thread out of there. That was a mistake I made, guys. I should have had that thread out of here before I started stitching. Now see, that's a mistake. And that's a mistake that you don't want to make when you're making a real garment, because that will show. That will definitely show. Just leave it right there. All right, let's do it. You can also override the settings if you want a longer buttonhole, if you want a tighter buttonhole. Okay, so you cut the thread for me. And there it is. Now let me do one this way. So say we're going to do the horizontal. Okay, so we're going to follow the horizontal lines here and put our lines that we drew so they're matching horizontally here, and here's your center mark. Okay? Alright, let's make a buttonhole. Gotta get that piece of thread out of there again. There we go. And I messed up. You see what I did? When I lifted my foot, I messed it up. That's something you don't want to do. Never lift a foot while it's engaging. Okay? That's a big no-no. Now I'm going to just pull that away. Now let's do another one. Because I messed up on that one, let's do another one. Lesson learned, see? Okay, if I want to get that thread out of there, I can do this, but do not lift the presser foot up. Now I wasn't very accurate there, was I? So I'm going to do one more, just to show you. Oops, I keep bumping the camera, I'm sorry. Alright, so let's see here. Make sure that line is right where those red lines are. And you could put your... There we go, now I got it, see? You could bring your needle down to make sure it's right on that line. Now, a lot of times when you use the automatic thread cutter, it will pull the thread to the bottom. But in this case, because you're putting fabric under there again, moving it out, it'll keep popping out. There it is. See? Aren't those nice buttonholes? Beautiful buttonholes. Just beautiful. Let's do one more horizontally. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull some of this thread. So if it goes backwards, let's start at the top here. My stabilizer is under there. Let's find the center mark here. And if you ever wanted to know like how to space these if you don't have a gauge, you could do a test. You could do like I'm doing right now, a test, and measure these buttonholes, right? And then you can measure all the way down. That's how you would space it. Do a pre-test, see how long that buttonhole is, and then measure them down and distance them apart. You can even do a little piece of paper with a strip and put it equal apart, and then you can mark those markings from the strip onto your fabric. Now, this was a garment, okay? If this was a garment, you were going from the top down, you would line up your edge of the material of the shirt placket like right about there. See, on the edge of that foot, okay? That's how you would line it up. And you keep that line all the way down. Now, normally on a shirt placket, you've got 2 or 3 layers of fabric, and sometimes there's a lightweight interfacing in the middle, but I still like to use a stabilizer under my foot here because that really helps. And if this isn't the right width from the edge of the shirt placket, you can draw that fadeable line all the way down. So this was your shirt placket, and this is the edge. You know, because you already have a 1/4 inch stitching line here also. So that looks like it would be good, right? All right, now let me show you how to cut these buttonholes open. All right, the easiest way to cut these buttonholes open is not with a seam ripper. It's with a 1/4 inch chisel. You can pick up a chisel like this at any home improvement store. It's a 1/4 inch wide. Careful, it's really sharp there. All right, and then you get a piece of 2x4. If you love woodworking, you're always doing something around the house, you're gonna have a piece of 2x4 laying around. I have a lot of 2x4. And then you can cut a big, this is just a big piece I use for when I iron. In case you don't know, I've told you in a different video I demonstrated, I use this as my clapper. And what's a clapper? Well, a clapper is what tailors use to set the seam, to set a fold. So let's just say that this is you're going to iron this fold. Okay, this is backwards. This is the inside, and you're folding a seam. Okay, and you want the edge of that to be really flat. So you would press with a steam iron. Then you lay the wood over right away, and you lay it on about 5 seconds, and the steam will absorb back into the wood. And it'll set that crease for you on your, just look at me, just pressing with the wood. Look how nice and flat that made that edge. See that? So if you're using thicker fabrics and you're doing a seam, you press, you just don't lay that on it, you got to give it a little pressure. And then when you lift it, you can have a perfectly flat seam. Isn't that nice? So this is a newer piece I just cut, and I'm going to demonstrate how to cut the buttonhole. So what you do is, let me zoom in a little closer for you. There we go. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your 1/4 inch chisel. You could buy a 1/2 inch chisel too, but some buttonholes you're going to make are smaller. And I never found a buttonhole smaller than a 1/4 inch opening. So 1/4 inch is great. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay the flat side down like this, and you're going to stand it up in that slit of that where you want the hole to cut. And then you just rock back and forth. Okay, and then you're going to move it down. And you're going to do it again. And if you know that you're going to be doing bigger buttonholes, you could buy these chisels in different widths. You might want to get a couple different widths, and that would really help. I think my chisel might be dull. This chisel just might be dull. Now it's, there we go. I just wasn't putting enough force down. You got to really rock it. But if you have a brand new chisel, it's going to be really sharp. I'm going to have to iron or sharpen my chisel later. Alright, just rocking. Alright, and there it is. There's your opening. What a lot of people like to do is they put a drop of seam sealant in there. There's your opening. Now, of course, I would have white thread to match the white fabric, but there's your opening. See? And your button will fit right through that. Hope this helped you all. See, even with the mistakes that I teach you, you'll think, oh, I can't do that. I don't want to make that mistake. Because normally you make those mistakes on your own. You may not know how to correct them. When you see someone like me making mistakes, even a teacher, because no one's perfect, we all do make mistakes, but the mistakes that I make are to help you, so when you do something wrong, you'll know how to fix it. So I want to say thank you. I'll talk to you on my next video. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can keep getting notifications when I'm going to post my next video. Have a great week, everyone. Bye.